Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Pedovich here. Quick update on our severe weather risk. I'm going to do a much more detailed blog later this afternoon as we get closer to the timing, but this is today's risk. So this is Sunday. It is a March 15th, 2026. You can see the low risk for most of our area, medium risk to the west, small damaging wind risk. It's 2% chance of a tornado today, but the hashed line, when you see these hashed on these graphics today, that means the potential for significant tornadoes. Means even though the chance of a tornado might be small, there are going to be strong tornadoes. So potentially some significant tornadoes today. And most of this is going to happen after dinner time. So daytime right now, you're fine. This is wave one. Wave two is much more impactful for Monday. So let's get into that. All right, so this is wave number two. So severe weather risk from Monday morning into the afternoon. You could see a very rare setup for us. We've got a high risk, which is bad enough, but then you see this highlighted area. This is a very high risk. This is level 4 out of 5 from the Storm Prediction Center for us. We don't see moderate risk like this or very high risk very often in the Carolinas, maybe once a year on average, and sometimes not even in a year. So pretty rare setup here. And you notice the threat, yes, it's not it is higher to the east than it is to the west, but I don't want people to the west to let their guard down. It just means the probabilities or chances of severe weather is slightly lower. It's definitely higher east of I-77. Wind is our number one concern, but this is also a significant tornado threat, which I'll get into right now. So the risk of winds, our highest risk, is way up there. I'm going to show you in a minute. It's like 60% chance. That's a huge number for a severe weather probability. Tornado risk is around 10 to 15%, so that puts it medium high. Hail, anytime we get supercells, you could have some hail, so that's a little more elevated. We're not worried about flooding with this situation because they will be scattered and they'll be moving very quickly. So it doesn't mean you couldn't see minor flooding in a few spots, but flooding is by far the lowest of our concerns. So that damaging wind risk, you don't see this very often on our maps. In fact, I had to adjust our maps because we don't normally ever have a 60% chance of damaging straight line winds. This means potentially 60 to 70 mile per hour straight line winds. This is by far our biggest risk, and the hatched area again means significant winds above 70 miles per hour. In general, damaging wind is considered 58 miles per hour higher. In this case, we're thinking 70. That area in the pink, that's a huge percentage, 60% chance. That is huge. So that means widespread wind damage is by far our biggest risk with this event. But the tornado risk is there as well. It's just that tornadoes are much smaller. This line, remember, is going to be a big line that stretches basically across the whole state. So the wind risk is always going to be a much more bigger threat because it'll impact more people than a tornado. Even though tornadoes are violent and super dangerous, they're small. They affect single homes and neighborhoods as they push in. So let's look at that tornado risk. Here's the tornado risk. Again, this is the chance of a tornado within 25 miles of any point on the map. We go from 2% in the mountains and foothills to 5 to 10%. Remember yesterday's post? 10% chance might seem low, but on any given day, like Saturday, the chance of a tornado was 0. This is 10 times higher than the chance it was on Saturday. So it's sometimes these numbers might be confusing. And the dashed lines mean strong tornadoes, EF2 maybe or higher. So there's so much wind shear. And that's the thing about this event that is striking to me is the amount of wind energy is literally off the charts. You don't normally see wind energy like this. And to see a 15% chance of tornadoes, that is super high because tornadoes in their very nature, they're isolated. So a 15% chance makes it pretty significant. All right, so let's look at the tornado parameters, basically the amount of fuel for a tornado, wind shear, and the fuel, the thunderstorm fuel. You'll see tonight, I'm going to go through tonight. This is the evening threat, so your Sunday evening, you see the risk. This is with the warm front coming north. Notice the chances of tornadoes. This is on a scale from 0 to 10 probability. So again, it is elevated. Near a 1, I start getting a little more concerned, and you see a few spots. So again, tonight's threat not as high as Monday, but it's there. That's why there's a 2% probability of tornadoes overall tonight. Overnight, there'll be a lull. So while you're sleeping, you should be fine. It's in the morning, we start to see the threat go back up. And depending on the timing of this front, which looks like it's leaning more towards midday or maybe afternoon, you see the risk really along the front spiking as we go into the afternoon. So midday and then pushing east, and you'll see those numbers spike as it goes into eastern North Carolina. I'll move my head real quick. So folks in the central and eastern part of the state definitely have a much higher tornado and wind risk, but this could start over the Charlotte area mid to late morning before it pushes out. So another product you'll see me use are these rotation tracks. Basically, where does the model guidance think we're going to have rotation in the storms? Doesn't always mean tornadoes, just means you have rotating thunderstorms, which can be dangerous even without a tornado. So we'll go through tonight real quickly. You can see not a lot there. That's why this evening I don't want to get too crazy about Sunday evening. It's there, but it's a small chance. I'll be completely honest. Monday to me is much bigger risky. So we go in issue in the morning. So we start this, we go through the middle of the day. This is 10 a.m. You start to see some rotation tracks. This is with the front pushing in from the west. You could see some of these. And the one thing about this setup, these are not only going to be strong rotation tracks, they're fast moving, 50-mile-per-hour movement of storms. So the warnings are going to come quick. And this storm motion means once you get a tornado, it could be a long track tornado, meaning on the ground for a long time. You see some of these tracks, middle of the day, Monday, it's going to be a very busy lunchtime hour. This is incredibly strong track on the guidance right here. Now, is it going to be right there and right there? No, you can't read that specific. You just know somewhere in this area, there could be 2 to 3 pretty strong storms with rotation. We can't tell you until they form. This is kind of an initial idea that somewhere in our region, the setup will be there. And then look at these tracks going off to the east. They get just as strong. So this will give you a really good idea of timing as far as the biggest tornado risk to me is going to be the middle of tomorrow, Monday, into the afternoon hours. Last but not least, I got to leave you with the way to get 3 warnings. Make sure if there's one thing you do today, make sure you have 3 methods, more than just your phone, though this is a big part of it. Charge it up, keep the ringers full blast. This is not a normal setup for us, guys. This is a severe risk threat for Sunday night into Monday. We don't see these setups that often. They happen a handful of times per year. Doesn't mean everybody's going to get hit. That's the other thing. But somebody is, and we don't know who that is. And because of that, we want everybody to be ready. Once you get a warning, have a plan, enact it. And please, please, please talk to your neighbors and friends who may not pay attention to the weather much. We all know those people in our lives. Make sure they're paying attention.